Okay, so in the last video, what we talked about was when you have any number to a negative exponent, you can also write that as that's the reciprocal function. And when I talked about that, I kind of started with a number to a certain power, and we talked about what that means. Like over here, x to the third is x times x times x. We talked about how to get to the next one down if you just had that right side. Every time we went down in our exponents, we essentially divided the top one by x. And we kept going that way. Well, then the question is, what do I do if I want a rational exponent, like to the 1/2? And the answer to that is because it's in between here, I can't, just divide by x. What I'm actually doing, x to the 1/2 power, is the square root of x. So we're talking about what goes in between those. The way that I would encourage you to maybe remember this is to think about any number, and I just use x because it's a nice variable. But any number, when you have just to a power or an exponent, you know that that means, x times itself that many times. But the thing is, when I throw in another something rational, something that can be written as a fraction, normally that's been just 1, and so you haven't had to worry about it. But now we're going to put numbers in there. And the reason I wrote that in red is because this stands for the root. So the power you're used to, you've been doing exponents as powers. That's no problem. But the root is when you take the root of something. Okay. So for example, if I have a number to the 2/3, I am talking about the number being x times x, because this is still the power like it always was. Should put that in blue. But now I'm also talking about this divided by 3, this rational part. So I'm going to take the cube root. So that bottom number is always the root number, and the number in the numerator is always the power number. This one can't be simplified any further because I have the cube root, but I only have x times x in there, depending on what x is. If I'm just talking about x as a variable, nothing else I can do with that. But let's say that I have 2 to the 3/2. So now if we talk about this, remember that this top number is just the power taken on that 2. So we're talking about 2 to the 3rd. But the root that we're talking about, that is the square root. But this can actually be simplified. Now, a couple ways to simplify this. Some of you might think of 2 to the 3rd as being 8. Some of you might just think in your head that means 2 times 2 times 2. And remember, a square root is referring to when there's a group of 2, you can pull it out as 1, is what I always say. But 2 times 2 is 4. So another way you can look at this is the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. So I just multiplied these 2's together, and I left the other one hanging there because it didn't have a partner. Square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of 2, I just keep that square root of 2, and so this is my simplified version. And you can go to the next video for more examples of that.